Hey, welcome back. So there's a special kind of lookup table you're going to want to include in any data model you build that includes a date or time component, which is to say probably just about every data model you build. And that's a calendar table. You may recall us building one in the earlier section on Power Query, but just to recap, calendar tables contain a series of sequential dates, usually spanning our time period of interest, with one row per date. Now, a mere list of dates isn't all that interesting, but calendar tables also contain additional columns that feature components of the dates like month or year. With all this information in place, we have a one-stop shop for everything we might want to know about a particular date. Instead of having to derive all this information at a bunch of separate places, we can get it for free, so to speak, by linking to our calendar table. And they have even more advanced applications we'll explore later in the course. So first up, let's stand up a quick calendar table. So to do that, I'll get out of my data model here, and then I'll import a CSV file I've created that has a list of sequential dates spanning the time horizon of our business operations and including dates in the future, so we don't have to constantly update the source data. So to get that, I'll go to my Get Data button, from File, from Text CSV, and then I'll select my Dates CSV file and import. And this preview looks good, but of course we're not going to be content with just a single column of dates. We're going to want to add different interesting attributes that we'll have access to if we link in to our calendar table. So let's hit Transform Data. And it looks like Power Query promoted headers and accurately guessed the type of our column as a date. So now let's get to adding some new interesting columns to our table based on these dates. So I'll go to the Add Column tab and then hit the Date button to see what our options are. And I think I'll add the name of the day of the week, the name of the month, the year, and the quarter. And while I'm at it, maybe I'll add the first of the month as well. Now with all those attributes in place, we're ready to close and load to the data model. So I'll go to my Home tab, close and load to. I only want to create a connection to the data source, and of course I want to add it to my data model. And now that my dates table is loaded, I'll go back to my data model by hitting the Power Pivot tab on the ribbon, and then the Manage button. And then if we go to Diagram View, and then zoom out just a bit, now we see our dates table in the data model. But as I'm sure you've anticipated at this point, we can't use it in our Power Pivots until it's connected to some other table. Now looking at our tables here, the obvious candidate to form a relationship with our dates table is the orders table, which has an order date field. And then thinking about the relationship we should try to establish between these two tables, we know that our dates table has one row for every date, so the date values in that table are unique. Whereas in our orders table, we would anticipate that many orders could happen on a single day. So pretty clearly there should be a one-to-many relationship from dates to orders. Now keeping in mind our principle that relationships should flow downhill or left to right, depending on your preference, from the one side of relationships to the many, it looks like we need to drag our dates table just to the left of our orders table. And now to form our relationship, I'll simply select the date field in my dates table and then drag over to the order date field of my orders table. So at this point, our data model should be good to go. So let's go ahead and try to build a Power Pivot incorporating some of the fields from our shiny new date table. So as usual, I'll go to the Insert tab and then hit the Pivot Table button. I'll create my pivot table from this workbook's data model. And let's say we want a breakout of order quantities by day of the week. So first I'll pull in a count of sales order ID from my orders table. And now, with my trusty calendar table in hand, I can simply expand the dates table and then pull the day name field down into my rows area. Now there is one annoying aspect of this pivot table, and that is that our weekday names are sorted alphabetically by default and not by their actual chronological order in the day of the week. But in later versions of Excel, there is an easy way around that. So if you click the filter button here, and then choose more sort options, then in this dialog box we'll choose ascending, and then hit more options. Next, we'll uncheck next to sort automatically every time the report is updated. And then here's the real kicker. In this drop-down list under first key sort order that says no calculation, we have a list of series of values that Excel recognizes as having some kind of order, even though they're also words that could be sorted alphabetically. Things like days of the week, months of the year, or even series of words like low, medium, high, urgent, and critical that might be considered to have some kind of a natural sort order. Now in our case, we're dealing with whole names of the days of the week, so we'll choose that list and then click OK, and then OK one more time. And now our pivot table is sorted nicely from Sunday through Saturday. And thanks to our calendar table, we have this quick breakout of our sales order counts by the name of the date of the week. Okay, so you could be forgiven at this point for thinking that Power Pivot makes mashing up multiple data sets into a single pivot so easy it almost seems magical. But you knew it couldn't always be that simple, right? The devil, as they say, is in the details. And up next, we're going to take a look at some pitfalls to avoid as you're building out your Power Pivot tables. I'll see you then.